So I'm Kelly Gomez, and I'm your MC tonight, and I taught here for 16 years. For the last couple of years, I've been working at the district with all of our high schools, and so I love the Poetry Slam and the Story Slam, and so I'm not glad that Miss Sullivan is out right now, but I am glad that I get to help out because I love it, and I love hearing your stories. And the other day, when y'all the sophomores told stories, I definitely cried. I laughed a little bit. I was on the edge of my seat. It was some good work. So I know we're going to have the same thing tonight, even though we don't have DJ and lots of music in between, okay? So I want to thank you guys all for being here. And we have some judges. We have some folks that were coerced into being math people tonight and timekeepers. And so I'll introduce you to them in a minute. But I also want to just say that this is based on the mock storytelling. So all of our competitors tonight are going to have 5 minutes to tell a true story from their life on this year's theme, which is treasure. We know treasure could mean lots of things, so we'll see what they have to say. Hi, welcome. After each story, these poor folks over here have to assign some numbers and a score, which is always really hard. They do have a rubric, so they're going to stick to their rubric for everybody. It's a really unenviable job, so we're going to just be very thankful that they're here and willing to do it. And then they're going to give those scores to the math keepers. They're going to do their magic. We'll call up the next storyteller. We do those through a fishbowl, so we don't have a prearranged order. So everybody, you got to be ready, okay? Thinking about it. And then at the very end, while they're tallying up all the scores for the night to determine our top winners, I think I'm going to convince Miss Childs to tell the story. She was a little on edge, but I think she's going to tell one for us. She's going to stick it out. We'll have to see what happens. And then we'll announce the winners. And then our top 2 winners, our first and second place winners, will go to the district-wide Story Slam, truth be told. And that is happening on, bad MC, Thursday, the 23rd, which is a week. How'd that happen so fast? At 7 p.m. and it's at the Lincoln Library, which they just had their building rebuilt. It's a really beautiful library. It's the only 6-story school that I've ever been in, down by the park, Timbers, home of the Timbers.
And we will have a slide and some papers around after intermission that can help you get there.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so before we begin, let's take a second to just silence our devices. And it would be great if they weren't even vibrating, right? Or flashing. Some people have their lights flashing, so we don't want to interrupt anybody in the middle of their train of thought. And then, as you guys have already told stories, and the rest of us can assume, it takes a lot of courage to be up here in front of everybody, right? It's a little nerve-wracking. And so we're just going to give them our full attention. When I call somebody's name, we're going to clap them all the way up to the mic, right? So it doesn't feel like a really lonely walk all the way up there. And then when they're done, we're going to clap them all the way back to their seat, okay? So that we give them lots of love. And then, so I'm going to introduce our judges really quick. We have Day Rivers. Day is a non-binary Black American storyteller navigating mental health challenges, playing in fictional worlds and poetry, painting, and collective dreaming. Their work is in conversation with the past and present to imagine futures. And Big Tony Vegas. Listened to pirate bedtime stories as a child and ghost stories near Lake Michigan as a teen. Flash Night Meet Manimal. In college, Big Tony crafted stories in the city of the big shoulders with his 16mm Aeroflex and beatnik poets. Now he dates a librarian. I think there's a librarian in the room. As for treasures, those hot towels in a barber's chair scented of pomade are Big Tony's favorites, and the stories that come with them. And then we have Julie McMillan. The Portland Public Schools District K Library, TOSA, who we love and appreciate because we need library TOSAs. She's been an educator since 1997. When not reading or driving carpool for her kids, Julie can be found online shopping for cat sweaters to dress up her orange tabby, Mandarin Jones. Thank you, Julie.
That's so good. How long are those sweaters?
Gabby Luton-Leopold, did I get that right? Is a writer, and get this, student teacher here in McDaniel's English department. In her previous career, she told stories through curating art exhibitions. Gabby loves telling and reading stories with her 5-year-old daughter, Vivian Rose Lazy. Very nice. And then, I got it right? Ike Boogie. He works for Upward Bound and Educational Talent Search out of Portland State University. His favorite book is Fahrenheit 451. Who's read it? You. All right. Nice. And then I'm also going to introduce some other people, and then we'll get going. So we have Krista McDaniel. What a name. She's volunteering here, and she's going to be an English teacher pretty soon. Awesome. And then we also have Shannon Emerson, who is a McDaniel parent. And we have Elisa Long, who's a teacher at Franklin High School. And then we have our official photographer, our video teacher here, Andrew. And our videographer, for how many years have you been videoing our slams, story slams, and
when did you start?
Poetry slams, I think, Sunny, I think it was 13 years ago?
Yeah.
Maybe? Yeah. And this is, I think, the 7th or 6th story slam. So,
Yeah.
pretty good. All right. How are we feeling? Are we ready? All right. All right. So, we're going to welcome our first storyteller to the stage when I remember where I put the fishbowl. Oh, hang on. Let me make sure this is on. I think it is. You can hear it.
Hello.
And it's really kind of short, so if you need help with this, when you're up here, you're just going to do this and then tighten it again, okay? But I think you can hear me. You don't have to get as close as you did in the auditorium where you had to have it right up here, right? You can hear me from here? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, without further ado, finally, our first storyteller is Jillian.
Can I start?
Yes.
Okay, so it all started in January 2022 when the Omicron variant was targeting teachers and students to the point where school had to shut down. We were miserable. I was upset because I wouldn't get to see my friends for a week and I had to do online school, which was no fun. And my mom and I were like, we need a distraction to help us feel better. And we noticed that our resident cat, Sky, was sulking around our house looking as though her spirit had been stolen. So we're like, she needs a friend. So we go online to the Humane Society website and look at cats. And they keep coming and going, but there's this one cat, his name is Chauncey, black and white tuxedo cat. No one wanted him. And I didn't understand why, because his biography said that he was friendly and got along with other cats, which is just what we needed. So the next day, we drove to the Humane Society, and we were greeted by this middle-aged lady who wore a cloth mask, and she was a close talker, and you could feel the heat of her breath whenever she was talking. And so they showed us to the room the cats were, opened the door, and we were immediately, it was as if we'd been shoved into a full litter box. We were greeted by the most sickening, atrocious stench in the history of the world. And it was cold in there, and the cats were all lined up in cages behind bars like prisoners. And so we were shown where the cat was, and the fourth thing, he was just holding his litter box. But I could finally get a good look at him. There were 4 things about him. 1, he smelled like onion rings from a fast food restaurant that had been left outside. 2, he had a promoter that could shake the room. 3, his eyes were like pools of yellowish green metal, but they looked so dead and hopeless. 4, he had this marking below his nose that looked like a half mustache, like it was like an artist had started painting it, but like fallen asleep, taking a lunch break, never finished it. So I was just hanging out with him, and my mom was talking to the Humane Society worker, and she said that Chauncey had a heart of gold, and that convinced us because shortly after my mom and I were like, we'll take him. So we take him home. He meowed the entire way home. We let him out in the bathroom, and he hid in a corner by the toilet for a few days. For a few hours. Fast forward to the next day. My parents decided to go to the library, which means I'm in charge of the cats. And me being the very smart decision maker that I am, decided to leave him alone. You know, Chauncey's been a good kid. He never did anything wrong. Very well behaved. So I'm just chilling in my room, scrolling through YouTube, when I hear this agitating, bothersome scratching noise, followed by this high-pitched yowling noise. So I'm like, okay, I should go check on him. So I open the door. I was once again greeted by the putrid stench of a full litter box. And it was as if a tornado had gone through the room. Like, kibble was everywhere, cardboard from his bed was everywhere, toilet paper bits were everywhere. But like, I just took one look at his adorable little face. I'm like, I can't be mad at him. He never did anything wrong. So I sit down on the floor, climbs on my lap, and it's pleasant, but it doesn't last long because then he starts biting me, and I start bleeding. So I'm like, okay, he needs to get his energy out. So I'm just waving around a feather toy, and fast forward 30 minutes later, he still has just as much energy as he did when we started. And that was when I came up with the perfect idea for a name for him because, Chauncey didn't really suit him. Peter, because it takes forever for his energy to peter out. Also after Peter Parker and Peter Quill because, yeah, I'm a Marvel fan. And so this behavior continued over the course of a few months. We were tired of it, but we just accepted that this is who he was. And he had a heart of gold that made up for it, so we loved him regardless. And Peter was just the light in the middle of the tunnel that we needed, and he showed us that you can love and accept someone despite their flaws. Thanks.
Our next storyteller is Dex Davis.
Okay, so let me start off this easily. I am not good at making friends. I was never very good at making friends, and I still feel like I'm not good at it. Whenever I was younger, whenever I lived in Louisiana, nobody liked me. In my school, not a single person. I never knew why. I didn't do anything. They acted like I committed mass genocide. I didn't. And they would do this thing to me where they would come up to me, they'd come up to me and be like, hey, if you let me cut in front of you in line, I'll be your best friend. Or if you give me this, I'll be your best friend. I believed them. They weren't my best friend. They ignored me. And I fell for it because I was gullible. But I always felt that after that, I couldn't make friends. Nobody would ever like me. Nobody would want to be my friend. And then I moved here to Portland, and I went to Harrison Park. And I made a new friend her name was Alana, and I truly thought that this is the one, this is the friend, this is the person I will become friends with for the rest of my life. I was very wrong. She was not my friend. Well, the reason that our friendship ended mostly was because she tried to choke me out because I stole my remote back from her. Yeah, that didn't stay long. And after that, I was just thoroughly convinced that I would never make a real friend because I moved to a new place, nobody else seemed to like me still, and then I met Valentine. So the first thing that Valentine said to me when they saw me, they came up to me with their group of friends. I was sitting at my table with my Stranger Things hoodie. I looked extremely angry, like I hated the world. And they came up to me like, hi, I'm Valentine, these are my friends, and we're the cool kids. I guess I stared at them with the glare of death because they did not talk to me at all after that. And then I see Valentine again next year in full Aizawa cosplay from My Hero Academia. And I go up and I talk to him, I'm like, that's some cool cosplay. And that's how our friendship began. And I made friends with Valentine's friends, and it was so nice to become friends with people who actually cared about me. Because like whenever we first started being friends, I was like, oh, they're gonna leave me, just like the others. It's gonna be like the old times. And it wasn't, luckily. And then I got here, and I made friends with these punk kids. Their names were Quinn and Elle, and absolutely adore them. They are some of my best friends. I love them so much. They're little monsters, but I love them. And I luckily made more friends like Max here. That was an interesting one. That was interesting. I love you so much, Max. You're great. And it's just making friends like them. It was so nice and fulfilling. Like I still have like severe trust issues from like living in Louisiana with those types of people, and I will sometimes go up to them and I'll be like, "Hey, you don't hate me, right? You don't like despise me?" And they're like, "Stop asking that. Why would we hate you? You're like you're mean, but you're nice, and we love you." And I'm like, okay, I can take that. And I treasure them. I treasure them a lot. Like, pretty sure if somebody ever asked me what I treasure most in life, it would have to be, like, even like 10 years from now, I have to probably say that these guys as my friends, because they were the first real friends I've ever had. And I even gone on to make a great online friend named Hyde, who I absolutely adore. They're also a little monster. Love them still. But yeah, if I had to say that one thing that I treasure in life truly, it would have to be these friends that I made. And yeah.
Alrighty, please welcome up to the stage, Francis. Francis, we'll have it on video. We can give you the link too.
Thanks
for
for
the
watching.
okay?
All right. All right. 2016. Remember that date? There was this little kid named Ramses, of course. He was from Mexico, and let's say he wanted to move somewhere. I don't know where. Probably somewhere here, or there, or right there. But the main thing was he had to make a long trip. So here's my story about that guy. That story went kinda okay. First, let's say he had to get his visa first. That process was kinda annoying. Not for me, for my dad. Basically, I wouldn't know him of like going home, not wanting to be here. It was hot. I was hungry. I don't know, whatever you can make up. One time he even said, "Can you shut the fuck up?" No. Sorry. Can you shut up? So I of course just said, "Okay." And I remember he was always kind of like mean during that phase, but when we went to the airport, he was kind of, not gonna say too much, but he cried. And he gave me a hug during that day because he knew that he was gonna miss me as I was gonna miss him. But it's okay, because there's even more to that story, because I went with my other two brothers. With my other two brothers, we had to go into an airplane that was gonna take us from Guadalajara all the way to Houston, Texas, to then Portland, Oregon. That was kind of annoying, first of all, because there was this one kid that would always kick on my seat, would always cry, and would wake me up. Especially because that first flight, we had to make it during the night. And it was really annoying because that little kid wouldn't shut up and wouldn't let me sleep. And I'm like, could you just tone it down? Like, you're at a 10 right now? Could you go from a 10 to a 2? But of course I couldn't say that to a little kid. So I just had to tolerate him. Anyway, when we got to Houston, Texas, he basically, I remember I saw him a little bit, and I was like, but I just let him go, and you know. We had to go to the process of immigration, where you have to be asked of like, where you're coming from, what's your purpose here, you know, that type of stuff. Unfortunately, we didn't know English. fortunately, there was this translator lady. She was really nice. She made sure we could get like through the process of it, and also she would translate for us. It was really cool from her. I remember me, my brother, and my sister were like really anxious because what if we get rejected? What if we have to go back? What are we gonna do? So I remember me shaking, my sister shaking, and my brother was just like trying his best to answer the questions without saying something that would get us kicked out, you know? So thankfully that process went right, but now there was another challenge. We had to go through the whole airport and get to our next flight. I remember we were like lost during the whole airport because that airport was huge. You have no idea, like 10 times bigger than the school. I don't know why, but that airport was really big. We went through trains. We had to go through escalators, go up and down. And I remember one time we asked this black African lady if she knew where the terminal was to like get to our next flight. I remember I was so thankful for her because like even though she didn't speak Spanish, she was able to communicate through nonverbal language where to go. She literally just was like derecha, derecha, and we were like, oh, derecha. Because like we knew the way. Because like she pointed this side, and then she then tells us to go straight, and I was like, I don't know if that was right, but I'm gonna hope for the best. Thankfully, everything went well. During our second flight, everything was even better. And you might be wondering, why does a little kid and two other siblings want to be here? Well, the first thing is our mother came here before us, and we were just gonna come here because it was a better life for us. And I think being here and being able to live with my mom is something that I really appreciate, especially because my mom fought a lot for us being able to be here, so I really treasure that. Yeah.
Next up, Anthony.
Alright, hello? Okay. So, this took place about like 5 years ago. I was on like a beach vacation trip with my family, and we like never like gathered together as a family. So I was like really excited for this thing. So we went on a 3-hour drive, and it was exhausting. So the second I stepped outside that car, it felt refreshing. So we went inside the house, and our family split us into groups. It was me and my cousins downstairs with the bunk beds. So me and my other cousin, his name's Aiden, we bunked together, and I wanted the top bunk, but he also wanted the top bunk. So we had to fight over that, because like, I kept trying to climb up there, and he's pushing me down, like, bro. So I beat him up a little bit, and then I got the top bunk, right? So I was like, okay, it's my top bunk now, and then our parents called us to go to the beach. And then we came back, we had some dinner. I remember like devouring it because it was so good. And then like, and then we went downstairs, we played on our iPads. We were 10, okay? So then we were like playing our Minecraft games over here. I beat him up, but he beat me up in like this Minecraft game. I don't know what we were playing. I think we were playing like Bed Wars, something like that, right? And then after that, our parents told us it's midnight. It was like 1 or 2 a.m. in the morning. They made us go to sleep, so I was like, all right, fine. But then the thing is, it was so cold. It was pitch dark. I couldn't feel anything. So I was trying to settle in. It took me a minute, but after like 20 minutes just laying there, I was like, I finally settled in. But then all of a sudden, I hear this like knock on the window. And this window had like a little balcony outside with like, it was like 30 feet off the ground. And this balcony, there's no human that can get on this thing. So I did not know what that knock was. I assumed it was the rocks. I was trying to go back to sleep. And then I heard a second knock. But this time, they did it 2 times. And I was like, okay. So I looked down at my cousin, and I was like, did you hear that? And he was like, yeah, you want to go check it out? I was like, I don't know about that. So like, I was like, if you go, I'll go. And he's like, all right, sure. But you know what he did? He made me go first while he was grabbing my hand like this. I was like, okay. So then I remember every step I took, I was shaking. My chills were running down my spine. My hands were shaking. I was sweating. Even though the room was cold, I was shaking still. It didn't make sense, but you know, halfway through, I got there. There was more knocking. It was rapid. It was like, I was like, okay. So I was scared. He got scared. And then he was still holding my wrist like this. And then he ran back, pulling me. And I was like frozen. I was just like this. And he pulled me down instead while running back. And he just sabotaged me. He went up to the bunk bed. I don't know where he went. But I was just like standing there. I was on the ground. I was like, bro, are you serious? You're not gonna help me? Just like this weird thing. I don't even know what it's called. I don't even know what it was. But this thing that's gonna kill me. I was like, okay, whatever. I got up. I thought that thing was gonna kill me. I was praying to Jesus. I was like, please save me. And then I ran back up to the bunk bed, and I got a little mad at him. But at the time, I was too scared to get mad anyways. So we just huddled up, and we stayed there most of the night. But then I just remember, like, I was so like scared. I just remember looking back. I kept hearing voices, even though it was like a blank wall. I kept hearing voices. I was like, oh nah. I looked at it. I kept looking back, and I was like, I don't like this. So I was like, okay, you keep watching that, whatever window that thing is. I'll keep watching this blank wall. Okay. So we did that the whole entire night until sunrise came up, and then I remember that sun, the beam that came through that window. I felt like those lights were like treasure to my eyes, and I was like, I felt amazing. Thank you.
So I used to live in Indonesia. I lived there for about 5 years, and it will always be a huge part of me. And in a way, that's my ultimate treasure in life. But I want to focus on a piece of that treasure. So I usually lived in the city. It had about 60,000 people, so it was a small city, but it was a city nonetheless. But sometimes, me and my family would go up to the mountains to visit a village. This village was called Kiwi, and it was a beautiful place. To get up to Kiwi, we had to take this small plane that could fit 7 people plus a pilot. And so we all squished in here, and it was a short flight, maybe about an hour, if even that. And it was majestic. We flew right up to the mountains, and I mean right up to the mountains. You felt like you could touch them, and that was thrilling. So we landed there, and we were there for a celebration. The church denomination there was having an anniversary party, and it was the biggest event for miles. So we woke up early in the morning of the party, and we helped set up whatever we could help set up. And soon, by midday, hundreds, maybe even thousands of people started coming down in droves from all sides of the mountain. It was majestic. People were carrying wood and sweet potatoes and slinging pigs over their shoulders and taro and cassava, and everybody was contributing something to this big event. So they started the cooking pit. If you've ever seen or been to a Hawaiian luau, it was kind of like that. They dug a hole and they put a fire in it, and on top of the fire they put stones, and they roasted a pig on there or maybe a chicken, and they put sweet potatoes and taro on top of it, and it was just a lovely barbecued meal. And everybody there was having the time of their lives. My favorite part about this whole thing was the communal aspect of it all. Like I said, everybody brought something to the meal, brought something to the event, danced or whatever, and that was an amazing feeling. But my very favorite part of the whole thing was not in the center of the party. Farther back, there was this hut that had been built in the last few days. It was made out of wood and it had a thatched roof. It maybe fit like 50 people if you really jam-packed it, and they did. And you couldn't stand up in it. And I heard music coming from it, so I went to check it out. And I stepped inside, and immediately sound started emanating off the walls everywhere, and it just swelled up in my heart. And I sat down and just listened to the music. People had guitars and ukuleles and this 2-string bass, and they were singing. And I couldn't understand the tribal language of the lyrics they were singing, but I didn't need to, because I could feel the joy of what they were singing. I could feel the emotions and the happiness and the celebration, and it was just this togetherness that I had never really felt before that. And so my treasure is that I have never felt a sense of community like that ever again, I feel like. And that is something I will always hold in my heart, and a thing I will always remember. In that moment, despite everything that was going on in my life, it was a light in the darkness, and everything felt all right. Thank you.
Yes?
Yes.
Emily!
All right. My story begins, well, I guess all of ours probably started in a hospital, but really mine started in my grandpa's music store. I spent every moment there in this back room with broken instruments and pots and pans, just, doing kid stuff. It was about summer of 2007. I was probably about 6 months old at the time, and all the best memories of my life were in there, with my grandpa, with his friends, with my parents. Just music swelled that whole building. You could smell the oil in the shop. It was wonderful. It's a very wonderful place. It doesn't exist anymore, which is a shame. I wish I could go back. That was back when I lived in California. But before I moved here, I was about 8 or 7 years old when my lovely grandpa, who I'd spent every polka festival with, every birthday, every Christmas, every random Italian family gathering we had, mangia, ragazza. My grandpa was crazy. He loved making me eat food. He loved eating my mom's food. It was crazy. But around that time, about 7 or 8 years old, I found out that he had throat cancer, which I didn't know what cancer meant at the time because I was a child, but I knew that he couldn't sing anymore. I knew he couldn't shake the house with his voice anymore, and I knew that he was very pale, which was unlike him. He was this big, very tan man, so seeing him so pale was rather frightening. But I remember, to the closer part of his death, he would always call my mother and say, I want to see my Emily. I want to see my kiddo. And I would always be like, yeah, let's go to Grandpa's. Because I knew I'd get little caramel candies, and I knew he'd bounce me on his lap and hang me upside down and call me chicken for sale, chicken for sale. I haven't been held upside down and called a chicken for sale since I was probably 3 years old. But one time, my mom received a call from my grandpa. He answered the phone, and he said, man, Lise, I want to see my Emily. Can you bring her around for me? And my mom was like, Emily, you want to go over? And I was like, nah, I'm cool with my Barbies. I'm cool with my Monster High dolls. I'm chilling, I don't really want to go over today. She's like, but you always want to go over. And I was like, nah, I'm good. But a few weeks later, I was in school. It was a Friday. And my mom brought me home, and she said, Emily, we're going to go visit the hospital. I was like, why? She was like, because Grandpa's probably going to pass away soon. And he said that he wanted to see you one last time. I didn't know that day when he invited me over would be the last time I'd get to see him without tubes coming out of his face and him in a hospital bed coughing up blood. I wasn't even allowed in his hospital room, which was a shame, but it was good because he looked quite horrifying. But my treasure was my grandpa, is my family. That's part of being Italian, is being close with your family. But really what my grandpa gave me was music, was life, was food, was culture. You know, I'm not connected to my Italian roots as much as my mother was. My grandpa was all I had. And now music and storytelling and food is such a huge part of my life. I don't know what I'd do without that. I'm just so thankful to have gotten to experience that for as long as I could until the end. But now I treasure music. I treasure food. I treasure storytelling. I treasure my dad. I treasure my grandpa. I treasure my mom. I'll always treasure the smell of oil and brass instruments.
Alrighty, are you ready?
So this takes a little bit of backstory because my treasure isn't in a treasure chest. I didn't have to fight a dragon and I didn't have to go on some epic quest that would last like 100 years. Instead, it was given to me before I was born by my late uncle. It was a teddy bear I named B. He was a 2006 edition Build-A-Bear, and he had holes like lining his neck so much that would give anyone trypophobia. His hair is matted from years of me dragging him around, and his face is permanently deformed. It's used to the left, and his eyes are scratched out, and it looks like he has cataracts. But still, even though his looks are hugely unfortunate, I knew he was supposed to be special. I saw as my family held him so close, like if they ever let go, he would float away. I knew he was supposed to be special too. Whenever I held B, I got this super sappy, nostalgic feeling. It kind of felt like if you took love and you took guilt and you mixed it together in this disgusting smoothie. But once I almost lost B. I was 6 and my sister Aria was 5, maybe 4, and we were fighting like we usually were. Maybe I cut the hair off her Barbies, or maybe she ate the last cupcake, but we were fighting and I was mad. And in my old house, we had a living room and there was this big Scion futon that we used to sleep on. And behind the big Scion futon was an even bigger window, and flies used to get like stuck in there all the time. It was weird. But we were fighting in there, and in my rage, I pushed her onto the futon. She was fine. I was really weak. But she fell right onto B. And I wasn't the brightest when I was younger, so I thought that B was gonna die under her weight. So I'm begging and begging and begging her to get up, and the light from the window is making this so much more dramatic than it needs to be. And as I'm begging her, she's laughing at me like the whole time, and she's a little monster, and she's laughing at me and mocking me, and I'm pulling and I'm pulling and I'm pulling and I'm pulling, and she's laughing, and the light from the window is making it feel like an anime battle. And I pulled really hard, and B's arm fell off. And it lays limp in my hand, and I think that my 5 or like 4-year-old sister's weight is gonna kill this bear. So imagine how I feel having my bear's dismembered arm leaking blood out of my hand. And I am inconsolable for 15 minutes before my grandma comes running in with her sewing kit. And she had fabric, but it wasn't the right kind of fabric. It was a dark brown, and B was a light brown. So for a while, he had this discolored armpit. And it was dark brown and hairy, so we called it his hairy armpit. And even though everyone laughed at it, it made me sad every time I saw it, because I would get like war flashbacks to my evil little sister sitting on my bear as I cried. For 15 minutes, I thought that I could understand the way that my family felt about my uncle. I thought that I could understand the way that they held him so close. I thought that it was the same way that I held him close, but I know that I hold him close because I know he's supposed to be special. I know he's supposed to be special because that's what people tell me. But I don't know how it feels. I don't have the memories of who makes it special or why he's special. But I think I really appreciate having a bear over a memory because you can't hug a memory.
See, right there, that's what I treasure the most. Let me explain that. So it's more in the like sense of, is anyone here the firstborn in the family? Like a big family? Do you ever have that feeling where it's like your name keeps getting repeated over and over and over again? Yeah. See, in my case, it's mainly, I don't like when I hear my name repeated on a daily basis, especially from my mom. I could say, yes, I'm one of the kids who is hard to deal with, you know. I wouldn't say I'm a bad kid, but I'm definitely, I have issues of my own that I would say. But my day goes, like, I get like 30 minutes in the morning between 6 and 6:30, you know, where it's quiet, just me, just silence, you know, just enjoying. And then I have to wake my brother up, and it's like, wow. Till I sleep, I really can't enjoy nothing. But there's this one day in particular where I was just like, I was really done with everything. I was tired, you know, irritated. And I think it was after a game, yeah, a basketball game. I got home, my dad's giving me the daily lecture of, oh, you need to work more on your basics, you know, fix this, fix that. And I'm like, I already know this. Why are you telling me this? I don't want to listen to this. But, you know, in a black family, you really can't be rude. That's something you would get irritated for. Like, you got to be respectful, pretty much. And I'm just sitting there, you know, acting like I'm listening, you know. That look you got to put on your face like you're involved in the conversation. I'm just sitting there and I kind of like zone out. And in the back of my head, and I just keep hearing my name replaying, you know, replaying. It sounds ugly. And I'm just like, why does it sound like that? And in my mind, it's like a little superpower I had since like the ripe age of 3, because that's when I really realized that my mom does not play. See, at that point, with my name being repeated in the back of my head, I'm like, oh, I'm about to get in trouble. It's a little thing that happens when, like, maybe 30 minutes before my mom gets home, and I hear my name without nobody calling me, I know something's about to go down. So I'm like thinking, oh, what did I do? Did I clean up? Did I bring out the chicken from the freezer? Did I forget to do something, you know? And I'm just like, everything's done. But my mom gets home, and she's like, your teacher reported you to me. What happened? And I'm like, what teacher? I didn't do anything. You know, and she's like, don't start lying. Because you know I don't like that. That's one thing that gets me mad. And I was like, Mom, I didn't do anything. The thing was, we had a substitute. And I was like, really? So I'm over there just like, I didn't do anything. You know, it's always a constant thing with me and my mom. Yes, like there's like little fibs here and there that I do tell, but it's not a problem. That's the thing. And she's like, oh, you like to lie. That's not true. I'm like, we had a substitute. I didn't do anything. And Mom was like, you know what? You're grounded. 2 weeks, you know, no TV, no games. My phone was taken. And I'm just like, this sucks. But I'm used to it at this point. So, you know, just relaxing and all that. And 2 weeks go by, and I'm sitting down. My punishment's over. And I'm just laying, you know, nothing to do. And I'm just like, why is it silent? And I feel like home. And I was like, I treasure this moment. Like, I could be here forever because my mom, I was on her good side. And it's like, not hearing that voice of her always being mad. And the thing is, my name comes with different different tones, different accents, because my mom's from Africa. See, that's the thing. She's not just black, she's also African. That's another thing on top of that. And it's like, it could go from princess to princess! Get over at that moment, it's like, I treasure the silence of my name not being repeated because in a big family, it kind of gets irritating.
Delicious. Sebastian.
The fit is fitted.
Thank you for that.
What about this?
Okay.
I'm not laughing at you.
Wait, okay. When I was 8 years old, I used to watch those unboxing videos. And for those who don't know what unboxing videos are, there's those videos that people order stuff offline and then record themselves opening it, and it was the stupidest thing in the world, but I thought it was really cool. And there's a specific YouTuber who used to order stuff online and then bury it in the ground and come back to it in like a year or so later. That's stupid, but I thought it was super cool. And so as an 8-year-old, I was like, I'm gonna do that. And so I did that. I'm searching through my entire house. I can't find nothing. I'm upset. I'm screaming. I'm having an 8-year-old tantrum. I'm so mad. It's house flipper in my house, okay? There's shit's flying everywhere. And during this moment in time, I was in 3rd grade. And I went to the 3rd grade. I was like, friends, my pals, my chums. What the hell do I do? And they're like, you should write a note. That's so disgusting. And so I gave up. I was sad. I was upset. And then Easter rolled around. Horrible. In my family, we did the classic Easter baskets. Kids got Easter baskets with all the candy that made you go crazy, okay? And we did adult Easter baskets as well. And the adult Easter baskets were full of adult things. And every time I asked my mom, I said, what are in those baskets? She'd be like, adult things, sweetie. And I never get told. And so I thought, well, I'll be 9 in a year. I'm practically an adult. And so I decided I was going to bury something adult-like for myself in the ground. And so my aunt takes everybody out to go Easter egg hunting, per usual. And I'm like, actually, I gotta go to the bathroom. And in my mind, it was heist time. And heist time in the mind of an 8-year-old is hilarious because in my mind, I'm being chased by these shadow monsters, of which are just my dogs. And I'm swarming through these swamps and these horrible bugs, of which are just a metaphor for my really itchy living room carpet. And I'm passing these gods of Olympus. They're terrifying me. It's just my mom and their weird friends, you know. They look weird. And I get to the dragon's hoard, of which are the adult baskets. I grab my prize, I run back through the hell. I hide it, and I bury it later. Didn't think about it for another, couple of years. And I'm 13 now, and it's summer, and my grandpa owns a landscaping company, and they're installing sprinklers. And for those who don't know, you have to dig a trench to install the sprinklers. And pretty sure you can tell where this is going. And so I'm just chilling, because why would a preteen or teenager be in there outside in summer? You know, I'm on my Nintendo, don't care. And my mom comes up to my stairs, and when my mom comes up to my stairs, I'm either in trouble or she needs me. And either are not a good sign. And she comes up to my stairs, she goes, and when I hear that, I know I've done something horrible. And then it got even worse. She yells my full Christ-given name, and now I'm like, I've done something war crime related. And she's leading me downstairs. I'm panicked. I don't know what I've done. I've done all my chores. I've done everything. I'm like going through the list of possibilities, like, is something not perfectly aligned? Like, what did I do? The stars are not aligning, okay? What's going on? And she leads me outside. Now I'm extremely confused because I'm like, was I supposed to be helping my grandpa? I wasn't informed of this. I shouldn't be in trouble. I'm freaking out. And she leads me, and my grandpa's standing there, and he looks like really disappointed. And then he's handed this box, and he turns to me, and the box is so ugly. It's disgusting. It's dirty. It's a shoebox. It's bright purple crayon on the top of my name, and it's the most horrible spelling I've ever seen in my life, and it made me cringe. A's look like Z's, it's so bad. And he opens the box, and now I'm extremely embarrassed, because not only is it in front of all his workers, but It's in front of my mom because it's a $300 bottle of whiskey. And I'm standing there and I'm like, what the hell is that? I didn't remember. And then I got grounded for 2 weeks. And that maybe it jogged my memory when I didn't have no Nintendo or nothing. Especially during summer, she's like, you're not even gonna go hang out with your friends. Oh, damn. And during those 2 weeks, I thought about it really hard. I'm like, how the hell did I get a 300 bottle of whiskey? And I really thought about it, and it started to come back in my mind, and then I was really curious on how the hell I got away with getting a $300 bottle of whiskey. I thought my parents must have been like dumb, or I was just best child thief in the world, and therefore my treasure is that I am the best child thief in the world.
We're gonna stop torturing Abilene. Come on.
I'm really glad my boots did not make really loud noises on this. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Elementary schools have all sorts of methods of making sure you get your teeth home without losing them again, because, you know, elementary schoolers are losing their teeth, and elementary schoolers are really hard to keep track of, and are really generally bad at keeping track of things. So, it seems like each year they have this new container, this new method of tricking children into thinking that they're doing something important in getting their tooth home, so that their parents can probably throw it in the trash can. And so each year there's this new covetous container. It's from the small plastic bag that you can pretty much find in a grocery store, to the eccentric, which is a tiny tooth-shaped plastic box, which is usually strung into like one of those cord necklaces that kind of sucks, that students really like to collect, or at least I feel like people did. So the most coveted, at least for me, was this tiny yellow padded envelope that I really, really, really wanted. Only important things came in padded envelopes, like gifts from grandparents, and tax forms, and things I wasn't allowed to touch, and and most of this was just that I am a very fidgety and orally focused person. I have lip piercings, which tells you just about everything you need to know. I had this fascination with this envelope. I wanted this envelope so bad, and I could not get this envelope because I did not start losing my teeth until I was 6 years old. That is an entire year of tooth container opportunities that I completely missed. I had developed this method of getting my teeth out of my mouth as quickly as possible, and this was a mix of the hatred of having a wiggly tooth, because it just slot back into place and I could feel it grinding against my other teeth. I hated it so much. It was the worst. And part of it was just that I really liked the taste of my own blood, and mouth blood has a specific taste that you can't find from other parts of the body. So this story takes place when I'm in 4th grade. I'm like this tall, and I think I'm the coolest person ever. I was not. I was an asshole. So I'm in 4th grade, and my teacher says that we have to do a circle, and I can't remember what it's about because every circle is the same. They say the same things every single time, no matter what. You could put a 10th grader in a kindergarten circle, and it would feel exactly the same because circles are just sort of a staple of school. So I'm standing in the circle on this weird, itchy carpet that I would sometimes eat because I put everything in my mouth. As previously stated, I licked every envelope in my house. So my tooth was loose, and I was really focused on that because I'm really, really fidgety. So I was wiggling my tooth. I was back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and it was just coming out. And it was like one of my molars. It was like grinding because there were two roots. There were two roots of it. So there was this sharp edge on the inside of my gums, and I remember it so clearly because it would slurp back into place, and it made such a gross slurpy sound, and I hated it so much. So my plan was I'm going to jam my thumb up underneath that bone and rip it out of my mouth. It took like 3 tries, and I didn't realize. But it eventually came loose with a feeling a little bit like a wet paper towel. So I interrupted the class with this whole like, hey, can I come to the nurse? I just lost a tooth, which was always exciting when you were a child, because you lost a tooth. You're getting older. You're almost an adult. You're not. I go to the nurse, and we don't have a school nurse at my school. We had this mandatory office, and the nurse was there 2 days a week, maybe. Even if you broke your arm, you're screwed. So I go to this nurse, and the office people are like, yeah, helping me out, helping me try and find this. And they were out of anything but just plastic tooth containers. And they were like, is this okay? And I was like, yeah, it's fine. But you see, in my child's brain, this meant they have to give me the envelope, which they clearly keep around for some reason. They don't. I went back to my class, standing in this circle, and I pick a tooth that isn't loose yet because I have a dastardly scheme. If I lose another tooth, they have to give me an envelope because they clearly keep those envelopes around. So I pick a tooth and I wiggle it back and forth, and I haven't lost it yet. I think it's either a canine or a molar, and I just wiggle it, and I'm out of. It pops out of my mouth. It comes out of my mouth. I lost 2 teeth in the same half hour because I really liked the taste of my own blood and really wanted that envelope. I didn't get the envelope. Thank you.
Miss Childs! Clap her all the way up. All right, so anybody who knows me, and there are many people who know me.
Oh, you don't want it?
No. There are many people who know me in this room, know that it is a treasure for me to be able to turn any story into just a 5-minute story. Long-winded is an understatement. And in this case, I told this story for the first time to a group of kiddos when we were just introducing the topic of the story slam and the treasure. And I wanted to sort of illustrate that it could go in a lot of directions. So here's my direction. It's a little different than some of yours. When my biological mom died, my sister called me and said, let's go clean out her stuff. I said, okay. And so I flew to the middle of California. My mom lived in a trailer park in the middle of nowhere. And I managed to get there. And we decided that, yeah, we needed to do some cleaning up because then we were going to have to sell it. And then we have to deal with all your parents. This death thing, it's tough. It's tough, for sure. And this was doubly tough because, I don't know how to say this, but my mother was crazy. And an alcoholic, though she was in recovery, and a pathological liar, and she had OCD, and yeah, she was a compulsive shopper for sure. So when I walked into that small trailer home, she was also obsessively neat. We didn't have just a little bit to clean up. It was like a department store. She had 2 of everything, sometimes 5 of everything. So 5 slow cookers, 5 sewing machines, a whole room with just bolts and bolts and bolts of fabric. She had little gym outfits of every color, but 2 of them, because if one is good, 2 is better. And 2 pairs of the same shoes, and socks to match, for sure. And so at first I was like, oh gosh, I could actually sort of shop here. But people who know me as well know I don't really like to shop, and I didn't really want to have a lot of stuff to take home. So that wasn't our main goal. Our main goal, actually, besides packing up a few mementos, was to find the money. Because my mother, in her wisdom, would take big piles of money, like stacks of bills, wrap them in foil and shove them in the freezer. Because you never know. And that, it's true, that came in handy once in a while because she had been married to a couple of gamblers, and so it's good to have some secret stash. So we knew there was money in this house.
And as much as we had both complicated feelings for our mother, we also thought it would be very helpful to, be able to divvy up some cash for our respective daughters. So we were hunting. I looked in every shoe, I looked in every sock, I looked in every crock pot, I looked in every sewing machine, and we couldn't, the freezer, she had, that was the thing, she had like 2 freezers, because when she made a meal, she would make double and then vacuum pack it and shove it in the freezer. So there was all that too, but there was no money. And it seemed so odd, because that was one of the most consistent things about a woman who was incredibly inconsistent. And about at that point, I remember sitting out on the lawn and calling a friend, and I was shaking a little bit, and she said, "What is going on with you?" And I said, "Well, it's not that we didn't find the money, it's that, like any daughter, I'm a little terrified. I am going to be like my mother, and I don't want to be that crazy." And at this point in my life, I can appreciate what she did give me, the ability to cook, the ability to dance, the ability to tell a story, because that woman could tell a story. Anyway, my friend assured me that I was not anything like my mother, though I have my own eccentricities, and I shouldn't be worried. And at about that point, it was time for me to go to the airport. So I go back off to the airport. My sister's going to do a little bit of cleaning up as we decide to have an estate sale and how we're going to sell this trailer and all the rest of it. And as I'm boarding the plane, my sister texts me and says, "I found the money." And I'm like, wow, really? Because we looked everywhere. I looked everywhere. "Where did you find it?" And she said, "I found it in a shoe." And I thought, really? Because I looked in every shoe. I didn't say that to her, and I said, "How much was it?" She said, $10,000. And I said, "Oh, excellent. All right, we'll deal with that later." But you know what? The fact that as soon as I left, that money appeared made me awfully suspicious. And that was actually the beginning of me understanding more about my sister. And the real treasure, and this is a very bitter thing to say on stage, is I am really lucky, and it is a treasure to know that I am not like my mother, and I am not like my sister, who went on to not only take much more money that my mother had, but has continued to be quite focused on getting what she thinks is hers. And for me, it just doesn't matter, because I am very lucky to have family and friends that I've chosen, and the family that I was born into is not mine. And I know that seems like such a strange thing to treasure, but to recognize that here I am on stage, and certainly I am impacted by them, but I am also myself. So thank you.
Just so you know, don't throw that away. Okay, so 5th place, sorry. No. 5th place is Elijah Eisenberg. Please come up, please come up. Here you are, and this is for you. Thank you. And then will you hang out up here so that we can take a photo? 4th place is Anthony. Anthony, congratulations. This is for you. I broke a handle on a bag. 3rd place is Dex Davis.
Thank you.
We also have T-shirts for those of you that didn't get one the other day in the sophomore slam. 2nd place, going to Truth Be Told Story Slam, is Emily Blacker. You're welcome. And then I'm sorry I broke a handle. I apologize. It's not the most priority right now in this moment. 1st place, going to Truth Be Told Story Slam, is Max Peters. Good job,
one last, like, winner picture? That would be great.
Hold on.
And, those of you who don't have shirts, will get shirts so that you can, you know. There we go. One